All the way to Florida, yeah.
Yep, you're on.
All right, we're gonna call General Government Committee meeting to order. We're looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second. Any discussion on the agenda? We do have number 9, the discussion of possible action regarding proposed updates to the Polk County Code of Ordinance, Chapter 28, Article 2 regarding large assembly permits is not ready for us. So we're gonna strike that item.
Yeah, we'll bring it back. It just needs to go through the normal process.
All right, so
We'll
we're
come with
gonna
recommendations.
strike number 9. Any other discussion on the agenda? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Carries. How about the minutes of our February 10th meeting? Approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the minutes? I'll find myself absent.
You were excused.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Anyone has any conflicts of interest on any matters? Just speak up when we're on that item. Are there any public comments? We know if there's public comments?
I don't see anyone online.
All right, well, if there is, we'd still give them an opportunity to speak. So, are there any supervisors here today not seated as committee members that have any information for this committee? Go ahead.
I'm just gonna kind of sit through when you go through your code. Can I just point out some things when you're going through all this or not?
I don't
Or
know,
wait till afterwards to see if you caught it all.
when we're going through our,
Policies.
Financial policies and personnel policies.
Personnel
I think
policy and the
Chair-
general code.
Seems like Mr. O'Connell's kind of the most up on that. I would be okay with
allowing him to have a brief.
at least to point things out, not necessarily his opinion, but
Make sure we take a look at it.
yeah.
All right, the committee's okay with that?
I am.
Anything else? All right, that would bring us to a discussion and action on a South 65 highway project, right of way transfer. Taking the lead on that.
Chair.
Good morning, everyone. This item is for the state highway project on State Highway 65. Did you have that? I sent it over to bring it up on a map.
No, I'm checking it.
I passed it out, down on State Highway 65, the South C intersection. The state is requesting the right-of-way transfer as they do this project. It's kind of cleaning up the right-of-way. The green box is what county owns right now. They're requesting 0.35 acres, or I think it's 3 acres. The second page of the handout kind of shows that area in the project scope there in blue. They're just requesting that we transfer that portion of right-of-way from county to state to be consistent through it. So
I'll make a recommendation to approve the transfer.
Second. Any more discussion on it? Do we approve it, or is this committee approving it, or is it going up that goes county?
this committee can approve that, and then once the paperwork comes through, I'll just sign it. Execute it.
Any further discussion on the motion to approve? Not all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. We'll have discussion and action on engineering bids for the recycling center update.
Yes, I'll do this. We had, for the update of the recycling center that was dedicated $1.62 million from ARPA funds. We had 4 firms for the architect and engineering services. I did put last week up in your box the proposals for you to review. I did vet out these 4 firms, looking at their scope of work, what they bid, and made contact with each one of these. My recommendation is to go with SEH due to the fact they brought in a recycling expert on board with that. They had a great understanding of our project and what we needed. They were the most responsive bidder on the proposal. So that would be my recommendation. They are not low bidder. I looked at Dimension. Dimension did not have any expansion that was recommended by the Polk study that you guys have seen. They were going to look at that as, if needed, that would be extra scope on their services. So it's kind of open-ended. I didn't go with those. Cedar Core was coming in with interviewing staff on what we needed for the facility, kind of a cookie cutter proposal they had with that, where I thought it rose SEH's proposal up there, bringing in the recycling expert. I did do a background check on that company, RRS, with good reviews, and spoke to them on what their company does with recycling centers and actually redesigning material recovery centers like ours, and looking for that item along with looking at an option of helping us with future business plans with the facility.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve it, but I guess I have one caveat I'd like to add to this, is that, and I'll just discuss it real quick if I can. I don't know how to say it. Or do you want to get a second and then discussion?
Yeah, probably just make your motion. And get a second
Well,
and-
Yeah, so I make a motion as long as we follow this up with a feasibility study. That's my motion.
So you need to, correct me if I'm wrong, Willie, but you need to make a motion that we move forward with his recommendation, and then we discuss it, and then you can amend it. Is that what you're trying to do?
No, my motion would be, I'm fine with approving the bid, but I believe it's not a complete project just by getting a bid for an RFP. So I think the RFP is fine. I'm not going to recommend the RFP and to go forward unless we have a feasibility study. And that's on a business plan. Before we start building something, I'd like to know, things like, is this going to improve the recycling for Polk County? And what's the business plan going to look like? What's it going to impact our budget? Is there more staffing? I'm all fine with improving the recycling center. I just want to make sure if we're going to go down this road that the county knows what we're doing and what it's going to cost us in the future and how we're going to operate it. And are we improving the recycling to the public? Because that was the goal of this, but this is just about fixing the facility up. It's not about, are we improving recycling in Polk County, and do we know what our budget's going to be next year if this project will go forward? So that's why I wanted to put that recommendation in my motion, that there be a feasibility study along with
Did you catch that motion?
supporting the RFP.
Support recommendation with, to
That's my motion. Yeah.
move forward with the feasibility study.
With the feasibility study along with this RFP, that I would approve the RFP along with the feasibility study.
And I can move. Moving forward with this firm, the expert they brought on board, we can move forward with the engineering and design as we get to that point. And as we're going through that process, look at the business plan and what that would mean, and what these improvements would mean for our county, and what it would take to keep them moving, whether hours of operation, staffing levels, and all that.
Is that just you with the feasibility study? Because I'm thinking we'd find a consultant.
I would reach out to this RRS,
Let them,
that does do that.
that might change their price.
It will be a different contract to help out
Right.
with that. Yes.
And that's what I'm saying, is that I think we should have them do more than what they're doing in their bid.
And I can get that price for an add-on for that.
Sure. So that's kind of, Fran, why I was recommending doing that step.
All right, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Any more discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I think we've already had one study. And I think we've been dragging this out for long enough, and I think the boards may already made the decision to move forward. And I think, given that SCH has a recycling expert and specific expertise in this area, that they can make recommendations as we proceed and go along.
So my question, Chair, would be is by having this motion part of it to do our due diligence, right? To make sure whatever we're gonna build, we have a and I can just go back in history. I remember when we funded to build and I wasn't here, but when we built the Justice Center across the street, I remember after it got budgeted, someone says, oh, guess what? We forgot to figure out our yearly cost on what the utilities are to run that building and our maintenance. So yeah, we spent the money, built a great building, but we never budgeted, and the gas and electricity on that building are pretty expensive. We never budgeted because we didn't think about it. And I'm fine with moving forward, but I just want to make sure that whatever we're moving forward with, and I don't know what we're moving forward with specifically, what all the changes are and how much staffing. Are you going to use the same staffing in the new proposed project, or would you change staffing?
Well, I'd make a comment because with more volume coming in and be able to process more volume, we will need more employees. My comment would be doing this study with RRS on what those staffing levels are needed to do to keep our recycling moving forward, because we do recycle a lot, gives me more justification when I come back to you in several months and say, I need 2 more full-time employees. That the study tells me that I need more employees. So that'd be a good thing on my side, that it's just not me telling you I need more employees, that the business plan says that we only have 4 full-time employees to keep it open 5 days a week in the summer or 6 days a week in the summer. We need X amount of employees. So that would help me out.
But
As justification on that.
would it also help you out to ask them, because what I hear is that we need more containers around the county, right? We need more locations to pick up. Could that be part of the business plan to identify, because here's one of the things I heard in the public recently, and it was a public comment by the mayor of Amory, that the city of Amory and the city of St. Croix Falls, I don't know if you've heard this, that they are actually getting a plan and they're working on coming up with their own recycling program. So in this business plan, I think it'd be very important that we would reach out to these communities that are talking about this to make sure we're not building something that city of St. Croix Falls, city of Amory, our 2 biggest recycling communities, are not going to use.
Right.
Because that would impact what we do.
Yep, I've talked to Mayor Isaacson on that. He's approached me on that.
Okay.
As a single point drop off, because I want to get the recycling containers out of the candy cans or the cattail trailhead. And it's a single point drop off where our recycling bins would be there for recycling, along with a tenant there to help make sure it's not garbage coming in and stuff like that. So,
And see,
which
that's
would require more.
And that's
more
where I
days.
think at the county do the right job, just as a business. I don't go build a building and say, oh, hey, we're gonna build a building, we're gonna pull it full of wood, and hopefully we're gonna make money at this or not go broke. And that's where I know the passion there to get this ball rolling. I'm not here to stall it. I'm here to make sure that if we're gonna do this, we really do it right, because this is gonna be a major investment for our county and on our budget. That we have a business plan and we have agreements and commitments from municipalities that we don't build the great new building and all of a sudden a municipality or 2 decide, hey, we want to do it different. And it's been a public comments. This ain't just private between you and Paul. Because I know people from Amory call me and tell me that they were thinking about making some changes. So that's why I'm saying we definitely need that. Now that I hear Mo saying it would help you, I guess those are all the things I would like to see in this as you move forward with, this isn't gonna slow down the engineering,
No.
as Ms. Duncanson said. The engineering can still keep going forward. But at least we'd have a business plan, so when we get ready to approve a project, we know what we're in for. And the administrator would want that, I would think, too. That's my comment.
So what Amory is considering doing is to develop a centralized location, Black Brook, Amory, possibly some other surrounding communities, but it would all still come to the county. The county would still be the ones providing all of the containers and everything like that. I don't think we have to worry too much about them taking their recycling anyplace else because by ordinance, it comes here.
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't know where else they would even take it, you know, that would be cost effective at all.
Well, Waste Management takes their recycling outside the county. They
Yeah,
don't bring it here.
but it would cost a lot, be cost prohibitive for them to do that. And frankly, in the city of Amory, you think anybody besides Waterman's? I mean, they believe in, you know, supporting local businesses, and Waterman's has always been very competitive. We have Waste Management in Osceola, and it would be a considerable increase in cost if the city were to, you know, make that change. So I don't foresee that happening. You know, I'm not on the city council or mayor yet. So, you know, I can't speak exactly for them. I'm just giving you the information that I know about it.
Sure.
Anybody else want to comment?
Mr. Chair, I have one caller on here. I'm not sure if it's Mr. Pritchard. Can I check real quick?
Yeah.
Mr. Pritchard, are you on the line, sir? Mr. Pritchard? I guess it's not Mr. Chair.
All right, there's a motion to go with the bid of SCH with engineering bid and a feasibility study. That's the motion,
That is the motion.
and then was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, number 9 was scratched. Number 10, discussion and possible action on compensation of Polk County supervisors, county board chair. and
In January, we provided the last survey we have of all the counties. I gave you another copy today. And in January, you guys also asked me to survey the local municipalities for the rates for their chief executive and board, which you have a copy of there as well. If you want to put forward a change to board compensation, then we'll draft a resolution based on that for the board meeting this month.
All right, this actually went through executive committee, but only as recommendation. In this committee, it's actually discussion and possible action. So the executive committee, the recommendation to this committee is that we increase the pay for the chair to $9,000 and $3,000 for the vice and the second vice chair. That's our recommendation. There's no other recommendations from executive. Anyone from this committee want to start a discussion or possible action on the compensation?
So executive didn't address individual supervisor pay just for those 3 positions.
There was no recommendation. made.
Oh, there
They
was
could
no
have.
rec- Okay,
They could have made. a
Not on
recommendation.
supervisors pay. There was a discussion, but no recommendation to
Okay.
change it.
well, you know, I don't know. I recognize how much work goes into these things. I think, you know, it's great if people want to do it for nothing out of the goodness of their heart and because they're civic-minded, patriotic citizens who want to give back to the community. But also, like Chris had said at one time, there's people who have to take off from work from their jobs to come here. It would be, I think, beneficial in attracting new people to want to be on the board, to be able to at least make them whole from the wages that they're missing. You know, it's not easy for everybody to get away from their jobs and attend meetings and to serve. And I think that we would attract more interest in people serving if they could be made whole if they had.
So would you recommend that they be made whole?
Well, everybody, and then again, what is that? Because everybody makes a different wage.
Yeah. Well, we'd have to almost set it amount. We couldn't go with.
I would agree with
made
that.
whole.
I would agree
So
with
do you
that.
want to increase the amount of the county board chair, vice chair, second vice chair, and all the
So-
committee members?
Fran, just to give you an idea, the executive, I don't know if you're listening, are you listening to the discussion?
I just came in on the tail end. It was all that I heard. I
So
didn't hear the
it was,
whole thing.
the 9,000, I recommended it because the mayor of Amory gets paid 9,000.
And St. Croix Falls.
And St. Croix Falls is real close to that same number. So then we talked about the responsibilities of the vice chair and the chair. Clearly, you know, I couldn't have done my job this year without John doing his job and Jay doing some of those things. So it was like the responsibility now of those three people, chair, vice chair, and second chair, going into the future with the world we live in. I just cannot see someone doing, if you're really gonna do the job and you're really gonna follow up on every loose end and every email and letters and show up here when you have to, there's no way, you know, $9,000 probably even doesn't cover it if you're working. So that was our discussion and that's how we picked the number.
So can you refresh my memory here on what it currently is?
6,000 and 1,000 for the vice chairs. And then 100 per meeting for all members.
Well, I guess I don't have a problem raising the chair and the vice chair. You know, like I said, it is very, very admirable, but probably less common that people are going to do this stuff out of the goodness of their heart and their patriotic duty, even though we all know we should. So I don't have a problem with that. You know, some consideration to the supervisor pay. You know, if this is going to go to the board, I think that's a discussion the whole board should also participate in and have just to discuss it.
We should bring them numbers though. I mean, that's our job is to bring numbers. Do we do action at this committee? Did we change the amount or is that county board?
You can, well, what we would need is action from this committee directing us to draft a resolution with the amounts.
So what, if you want to change the amount for a supervisor, committee members, you need to say that amount. And then this committee needs to be in favor
Well,
of it.
I kind of informally here with my other committee members, is there support from any of you for looking at the supervisor wage as well? I mean, I'm not really interested in being the lone ranger on the issue if there's no support from it for anyone else.
Go ahead, Dan.
I always dislike the fact that representatives be voting for their own pay. But the reality of this position as a supervisor, me being relatively new, you are not even scratching the surface to do your job right. You can't even look at this from a compensation standpoint. And maybe you shouldn't, but in the same token, there are expenses that are involved. I happen to have some flexibility in the work that I do to be able to make meetings, but still I'm spending company gas and in a lot of cases, my own gas to do it because I've got to race back and forth 30 miles away to another location that I'm supposed to be responsible for. So I could certainly support a number to bring forward to the board for discussion. What that number is, I guess I would throw out just for discussion purposes is $1,000 plus the cost per meeting. It's not a big number and it doesn't come anywhere near to what time you're sacrificing. But in the same token, we are not, unfortunately, if you look around at our board, we are not representing our constituents. Our constituents are not 80% retired individuals out there that have all the time in the world to come to meetings at 9, 10, 11 o'clock during any given week. That's not our constituent base. So with that being said, I think we need to look at that at least to a certain degree.
I kind of like that idea, instead of raising that $100 per diem up every meeting, that there's, the chair gets a ding, the vice, second chair, and then just as a supervisor, there's a flat $1,000 plus your $100 meeting. I like that concept, and I would support that.
So since the terms aren't a full, don't run with a calendar year, they begin, what is it, April 19th or
Yeah.
whatever? So $1,000 a year would be about $83 a month. So if we raised the per diem from $100 to $150, I think it would be fairly commensurate. I don't know the payroll department or the finance department. I mean, no big deal to prorate this stuff out.
Well,
Prorate the 1,000 is no big deal.
yeah, that's not, you're gonna get the same amount of money because you're in office for 2 years. So, and as far as budget, we can absorb this year an adjustment in the budget. If you're talking along this level, there's room in the budget to adjust for that.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, that part doesn't.
You're certainly not going to do this job for the money.
No,
There isn't one person in the world who would consider doing this for the money.
even with the raise, you
It,
should.
it does not matter. It's
I feel
insignificant.
like, you know what I like about that idea a little bit is the $1,000 is, it's one thing to get paid to come to a meeting. If you don't come to a meeting, you'll go get paid. But if for some reason you're sick or something happens, you're gone for a couple meetings, you're still taking phone calls, you're still going to a public event, you're still being asked to show up and talk to someone about what's going on in the county board, you're asked to go to rehab district meetings. You know, you're still doing stuff. And I think the idea of no matter how many meetings you attend, you still get that $1,000 to kind of compensate you for that other stuff. I guess I never
mean,
thought of it that way, but I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to it either way.
Sure, it
Yeah.
kind of gets the same thing.
I'm open to it either way.
So if you make that recommendation, Dan, I support that, Fran. Sounds like she supports it.
Make that recommendation. I'm not sure.
All right, so shall we say we have consensus?
Yeah.
Was the recommendation $1,000 flat, $100 per meeting, or $1,000 flat, $150 per meeting?
$1,000
flat plus
$100
$100 a meeting.
I
And
don't know,
then
maybe we don't want to attract.
The extra,
The only guy that doesn't need the money is O'Connell, so I know he won't vote for this.
I'll vote against, yes. Well, you get $1,000 and then don't show up. That's what I don't like.
All right, so are we gonna
That's
say
what I'm gonna say.
just consensus out of this committee? Increase the chair to 9,000, increase the vice and second vice chair to 3,000. And increase $1,000 per supervisor with all the meetings staying at 100. All right, yeah.
We'll draft a resolution for this month's board meeting based on that.
I'm not running again. So.
All right.
Go back.
Our next is a resolution in support of the Polk County application for large-scale targeted runoff management grant application, appropriating funds for grant implementation. Who's leading us in that?
Robert.
Morning.
Great.
I'm before you today rather than through the traditional budget process. For you to consider resolution 10-22. This targeted runoff management grant deadline is April 15th. So there's that little sense of urgency there. Typically, we would plan for this earlier, but this is an opportunity where the Land and Water Department feels confident in securing this grant. And really, this resolution does two things. It also acts as a support letter. As many of you know, when you write a grant, there's extra grant points if there's a partnership with the local unit of government. Also, the resolution commits the county to a one-time contribution of $60,000. That's over 3 years to begin work in 2023. Basically, it's a cost share reimbursement grant. We've identified roughly $500,000 worth of projects, conservation practices, initiatives to preserve both groundwater and surface water throughout the county, that we would pass through land and water, provide technical assistance for those local producers and landowners to implement conservation practices. Basically, it's an opportunity to leverage $60,000 to access $700,000 of state capital and distribute it countywide, cost share for landowners to use to preserve and protect groundwater and surface water. So that's about it. Any questions?
I'll make a recommendation to pass that resolution on.
I'll second it.
That was with a recommendation.
That's with a recommendation.
Any more discussion on the motion? Not all is in favor? Aye. How about our resolution 1222 amending Polk County financial policies?
Okay, in January, we went through the draft the first time. Hold on, let me pull it up on my.
Chair, I just a question. I mean, is this gonna take a while with Supervisor O'Connell pointing out so much? I see the sheriff's here. I don't know if he's got other things to do today to move 14 up first. The clerk, or do you guys care? I don't, you don't care? You don't care, Sharon? Just consideration. It matters to anyone else or not, but. Never mind.
Yeah, no, it could take a while on, unless they want to sit through the financial.
Pretty boring.
Let's take number 14.
All right, let me get that up.
Resolution to set the compensation for elected officials for terms 2023 through 26, sheriff and the clerk of circuit court.
All right, so before the April filing deadline for those two elected offices, every 4 years, we have to set their compensation for the next 4 years. And then in 2 years, we'll have to set compensation for the other elected officials. You've got a resolution with a recommendation in front of you on the screen. Do they also have this in their package? Oh, well, I sent them on, I wasn't sure, but it was the other day, but that's fine. So this is the comparables. We have comparable counties by policy. Our comparable counties are Barron, Dunn, Pierce, Burnett, St. Croix, and Chisago. I reached out to counties because, hold on, I need to pull something else. Hold on, guys. It was on the handouts on this. Well, we can go off this. I could pay. So at the time this was created and the resolution was created, we did not have Dunn counties. I reached out to their HR director and
I printed 6 off if you want me to.
are those the ones I sent you the other day? Would you hand those out? So Dunn counties is incorporated into this new one. Dunn County and Barron County are pending board approval at this time. And that's the numbers with Dunn County on there. So we recommended 3 3% each year for the sheriff. We were looking at Barron, which is probably our closest comp county in both tax base and structure.
County were you comparing us to? Barron?
Barron was where we wanted to try to get dead on with, because it's our closest comp county. We didn't have done at the time. Burnett's much smaller. Pierce is about the same size, but their wage grid is significantly less than ours. Tax base is a little different. St. Croix County is about twice the size of us. Their tax base is considerably more. Chisago, I only have sheriff of 2019. They don't, in Minnesota, they don't set it the same way. And their HR director never returned my inquiries about the history and what they're doing for this next year. The same for the clerk of the courts. So for the sheriff, we recommended 3% each year. So for the next year, it would raise the position to 102, 140, then 105, 204, 108, 360, 111, 611. To stay competitive with Barron County, staying ahead of Burnett, Pierce, and then roughly about $7,000 behind St. Croix, but there are the factors regarding size and tax base in St. Croix. However, done, pending resolution, raises the sheriff's pay to $120,000, an 18% increase the first year, and then a 4.5% increase each year after that. I did inquire as to that was based on comps or not, and that was not based on comps. That was just a discussion between the sheriff and their governing committee for the recommendation. I talked with their HR director. For clerk of the courts, when I did the analysis, the clerk of the courts has been falling behind. So our recommendation was 6% the first year, and this is exclusive of Dunn's at the time. 6% the first year, and then 3% each succeeding year, which brings it up some. It's still lagging a little, but falling at about, once again, about $7,000 behind St. Croix County, which at the time was the highest paid. Now, once again, in Dunn, same set of circumstances, they raised the clerk of the court 16% the first year, and then 4.5% each year thereafter. So whether you incorporate Dunn into it or treat Dunn as an outlier, those are the comps before you. This is a recommendation from administration. This is actually a function that is solely up to the board to decide what the compensation is for the elected officials.
All right, we're looking for somebody to make a motion.
I have some comments. Or we'll discuss them.
Yeah, why don't you make a motion to recommend this or not? Discussion. Otherwise, we really have nothing to discuss except Chad's comments.
Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend so we can put it to discussion.
Second. All right. Discussion.
Okay, so I'm not suggesting a 16% increase, but I don't think we're doing enough for the clerk of court. I recognize 6% and that will be helpful, but then we're doing 3% from then on. So what we're really only doing is giving her a 3% lift. And I think given how far she's behind, I don't think it will do, it'll help a little bit, don't get me wrong, but I would like to see us be able to do a little better for her.
You just say the number and we'll discuss it.
Okay, so we're looking at the first year is 6. We could do the first year at 6 and do 4% after that instead of 3. Or we could do, that way we would have that extra 1% lift we would be able to account for in each year's subsequent budget. So it would be less painful than maybe giving it all up front. But, you know, there's been a little turnover there too. You know, I mean, people get elected and they, you know, leave and this and that. And, you know, it's a tough job, and I hear nothing but positive things about Sharon and her staff there and everything that they do. So I would say 6% the first year and 4% thereafter.
All right, we have any sort of consensus in this committee on that? Just a yay or a nay?
Fine with it.
Yeah, I do.
How about the sheriff?
I'd like to do the same thing at the sheriff. Again, I think our law enforcement, just to say, hey, you've heard me make that speech before. As far as I'm concerned, law enforcement should make more than any other person in this room. No one else in this room.
Give us a number, Chris.
So I would go 6% too on the sheriff, and then
Sheriff.
4% too on the rest of the years out. I treat them both the
Do
same.
we have any consensus on that?
I can support that.
All right, that's gonna be are we just making recommendations or do we actually make this happen?
Well, there's a resolution for it, so I will just amend the resolution for the board meeting to reflect essentially you're amending the resolution.
No. And it comes with a recommendation. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Carries.
I have to calculate the amounts and also I'll just.
All right, let's get back to unless you'd like to take something else, we could do our work plan. That would be easier than doing the financial or the personnel policy.
I don't care. I don't care about the work plan.
All right, let's get back to the resolution amending the Polk County financial policy.
All right, now just give me just a second to close this out. All right, so we did first blush in December. Then you got the draft, that first blush with those comments in January. And there's also a summary sheet, just like I did in January. Except for in the personnel policy, the January one, I didn't change anything, but we probably still should go through each highlighted one as we go through it. So enterprise fund, we removed the lime quarry. That'll be 1.03C. Took that out of there. And 2.04 fees and charges, 2.04D, we omitted the lime quarry since it's no longer part of our system. 2.05G is a big one, even though it looks little. This is the consensus recommendation for the fund balance, changing the fund balance from, I'm sorry, I'm blowing it up. Mr. Nelson, that wasn't very good. From 20 to 40%. That was based on the consensus a couple months ago when we went over that stuff.
There's been there's been some discussion about possibly raising that up to 50. I would make a recommendation to go to 50. I've heard it from staff and from other supervisors. The committee so chooses to raise that fund balance up to 50. I'd support that.
What?
Well, I think there's a lot of municipalities, which are different than counties, of course, in Polk County, that would give their right arm to be able to have a fund balance of 40% or even 30%. I don't feel real strongly about it one way or the other, because if there were a natural disaster or something would happen where we would need that money, I mean, the board would still be able to go in and reallocate it. So we're talking about undesignated, correct?
Correct.
Doesn't really matter to me.
Can you explain to us again, though, what what triggers you to go get below fund balance? What are the things that the board can just can do it?
So what this policy does is it sets a floor when the administrator is designing the budget. And the administrator, say the administrator wanted to spend $4 million of unassigned fund balance on capital projects for his recommendation. If that 4 million took him below 20%, he would have to scale back his recommendations because it's an absolute floor that the administrator cannot touch. And then if the board goes into the unassigned fund balance, what occurs in the next year is it triggers proration on the administrator's part. And the administrator has to start taking measures in the next budget cycle to restore the minimum fund balance. So for practicality, say you drop below whatever your fund balance is, you'd really have no capital expenditures. You'd have nothing outside of levy dollars collected in your next budget. And you'd really have to conserve those because you got to work to restore the fund balance.
Can the board change the fund balance again if they needed to?
The board can, and the board can also order the administrator to go into the
Do it. So
End of the
there's
designated.
nothing that locks the safe.
It really just, it gives the staff guidance on budget preparation and management is what it comes down to.
Where are we right now?
61.9, I believe.
And we've
How much-
been for a while.
We went up a good bit last year. We added 4 million last year. When I said last year, I mean 2020.
So what would be if we went at 50, how much available cash would you have for discretionary spending then?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I'm thinking it's like 3.5, 4 million. Mr. McConnell probably remembers because I just went over. Yeah, I think it's 3.7 maybe.
We still have $3 million of discretionary money.
We might have took one of them.
We took one for the facility up.
in the facility.
Sure.
So there was out of the three.
You expect the fund balance to grow?
The way everything looks, we're going to add back to the fund balance closing out 2021.
Gonna add back to it still?
Yeah, and I will just say this because I am really cautious and conservative. Inflation numbers came out this morning and they're at 7.9%. So we're definitely trending towards a different economy.
Are you still comfortable as staff, are you comfortable with 50 or 40?
I think 50 is a safe number in my opinion.
We can do it.
So the general rule of thumb around us is 45 to 55 for counties. So is 50% the recommendation for the policy change?
I'll make a recommendation at 50%.
All right. I'm gonna make these as we go. All right.
We'll say we have consensus on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was, I don't think.
Yep.
there was a motion.
Remember, the ones that aren't highlighted are the ones we changed last year. This is my living document as we go here.
Be in yellow if it's changed.
Right. 6.03 under certificate of insurance. We had lengthy discussions in December about this. I reverted the changes. We're evaluating. We're continuing on. I'm evaluating the occurrences when they don't meet or what I tell staff is the minimum. However, I did add the wording workers' compensation coverage shall not be waived if statutorily required. And all workers' compensation insurance policies shall satisfy the Wisconsin statutory minimum limits. We really don't have a choice. That's just saying we follow statute. And we changed, for some reason, when this was written, the contractor must add County of Polk, its officers, employees, and agents as a certificate holder. That places as an additional insured was the original language. That places an additional cost on the vendor, quite a bit of cost. All we really wanted was for us to get a certificate. We were a certificate holder. So because that was a burden on the vendors, we're clarifying that. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. What would, if, and I'm asking because I honestly don't know. So if we have independent contractors and we don't require to have this workman's comp, something happens to them or one of their employees, then the county is on the hook for this, correct?
Well, we're fortunate in Wisconsin. We have very strict workers' comp statutory requirements as well as liabilities for corporations, including municipal corporations. So for domiciled Wisconsin businesses, we've got good coverage. It's for businesses not domiciled in Wisconsin doing workforce, like Minnesota, where when stuff comes in, I'm probably gonna look at it and say, going with the insurance and Joe Loso's recommendations. When we look at these, no, you need to have more than the minimum because your state, there's more risk there. So. And here, this is another amount regarding the fund balance. I'm going to edit it right now too. This will be 1.03 on balance. Uh, 105A. This regards the appraised value and how that's handled. That was formerly through the building director. We've transferred that to the general government committee.
Back to 104 on that page, if you would, but you're that close.
Right here, okay.
You want to do this every year or every other? August, because there's like 800. We did that this year. We finally caught up.
So we have done a lot of work upstairs and getting a hold of our fixed assets and getting true inventories and accounting for all our county land for the first time in a long time. I really think we could do this every other year as an audit practice. I don't think annually is necessary at this time. So that's not a bad suggestion from a staff standpoint. It'd be nice if we do it every other year.
Is that if we go up another one, it says 2 about all the assets, then because otherwise there's quite a few with facility managers and all that. So there's quite a bit.
Okay. So that's not one I put forward just because I wasn't, but I mean, from an internal control perspective and from a staff perspective, I think every 2 years is sufficient.
Because we caught up.
We've done a
this
good
year
job.
fairly well with that 800 and some.
I'm good with that.
Does that make more sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Every other year,
Yeah, of August 1st.
August 1st, every other year. Okay. All right, this 3.04 capitalization, this is an accounting principle. It dictates how we account for capital assets. So for the county, anything more than 5,000 we depreciate, and we include in the inventory anything with more than $500 in value. We use a different principle for Golden Age Manor because it's a enterprise fund, and that wasn't encapsulated in the policy before, so I've added it. So with Golden Age Manor, any assets more than $1,000 are capitalized, and like the county, any assets with more than $500 are included in the inventory. Again, the inventory is something we've been working really hard on that we just haven't had the staff to do for a while, and we're getting caught up on. This has to do with the enterprise fund and how we change.
The recycling center, is that an enterprise? Should that be added in there? Where do we put that? It's not listed anywhere in these policies.
Right now, we presently treat the recycling center like we do the rest of the county as far as GAAP principles go. The Golden Age Manor has always been treated slightly different. The nursing home is, and most counties treat their nursing home slightly different. So
Where does recycling fit in any of the policies?
under the general county policies is how we treat their accounting, because they're done as part of our audit, and Golden Age Manor has a standalone
department.
Right, and Golden Age Manor has a standalone audit for them, which is why we have a different accounting standard for them.
That's reflected. Your stuff in 308 here, go down one to the bottom of the last page. Disposal, reporting, and inventory. So that's the other stuff.
My
Okay.
pages are out of order. What you guys-
What are you asking, Mr. O'Connell?
No, that it does get done.
Yes, yeah, we've actually done, we have
That's
spent,
being done.
yeah, we have actually spent the last 8 months really working hard on inventory. I'm very proud of what they've done. That is the last change I have on the financial, unless the committee has anything.
All right, we could use the motion to recommend, not recommend, somehow get this to county board.
I'll make a motion to recommend that we take this on board.
With the changes we've
Yeah,
made.
with changes as was the committee consensus.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Not all in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Carries. How about the personnel policy?
All right, same set of circumstances. I did make one modification to these since January based on feedback from Supervisor O'Connell and Supervisor Kelly. I'm sorry, I blanked. So the first, under duties of my position is to include equity and inclusion in our overall strategic plan for HR and our philosophy. That is a best practice in today's government. We defined division director, had not been defined before. Division director, the division directors include the community services director, environmental services director, general government director, and public works director. Division directors manage their respective divisions, which include multiple departments, including staff assignments, and are responsible for setting hours of work within the scope of this policy as limited by state or federal law, contractual override restrictions, code of ethics, or other statements of professional responsibility. Division directors also manage the recruitment and disciplinary process within their divisions and may adopt additional safety procedures and process beyond those generally applicable to all employees, including employee handbooks and manuals consistent with county policy. Yes, ma'am.
Is this kind of just putting what the current practice is into?
It is, and that's one of the big important things with revising the policies and revisiting them is operational needs change and so policies should reflect that. Department heads E, I just made a couple changes so that we could clarify division director, department head. I added under the direction of their respective division director, and then departments which fall within a division under the divisional model, and then managing the recruitment and disciplinary process with their respective division director and county policy. And then F, we have standalone departments. We have a few departments that do not fall under a division. And so this describes those departments and itemizes those departments and talks about the authority of those standalone department heads because they do not fall under a division. ID badge, I changed it to issued by the county. It's just a nomenclature. Longevity pay, we clarified that part-time are also eligible for it, but they receive on a prorated basis for longevity pay. I do think maybe it's important to point out because it might be something you see at budget time. Our longevity pay is pretty minimal. And as we talk about retention and our turnover rate and all that, that's one of the ideas that's brought up. So just a heads up, you will probably see a proposal to increase longevity pay in the next budget.
So is that saying that if you've been here for 5 to 10 years, you get $80, $80 bonus?
Yeah.
Wow, I tell you what, you guys really stepping up. No wonder you can't keep people here.
Oh,
It's bad.
Wow.
Santa Claus over there dishing out the hundies all the
That's
time.
unbelievable. I'd be insulted if you gave me an $80 bonus.
So this has been around for,
In quarters. Rolls of quarters.
Darlene can probably say how long this has been around, but this has been this way a long time. So
It's back from the early.
I'm just telling you now, you're probably gonna see a proposal to change this.
Probably, I
Would
hope
you
you
like to
do.
recommend something?
I would.
It costs that much to write the check.
I would recommend.
We could
something.
actually recommend it. We could absorb it in the budget.
So if you've been here 5 to 10 years, your max bonus is $80.
That just blows my mind. So,
That's not much.
Recommend something.
okay, so what I would do, 10 to 15, 150, 15 to 20, more than 20 years, $280.
Quit laughing and recommend.
Okay, so I'm gonna
It's
say
not even 10 bucks a year.
5 to 10 years. I'm gonna say that number should be a maximum bonus of 5,000.
So I will clarify, everybody gets this amount, even though it says maximum.
Oh.
This is a flat rate everybody's given.
Flat
Oh,
rate.
so you give everyone 80
Everyone.
bucks.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Okay, so
We
tell you
changed
what,
that.
500
how about 5 to 10 years, say 500 bucks
bucks a year.
for that person. 10 to 15 years, 1,000 bucks. 15 to 20 years, 2,000 bucks. More than 20 years, 4,000 bucks.
It's every year.
So yeah, how does this get paid? Does this get paid when they hit that 15-year anniversary and they get it once? Or you're gonna give it to them every single year?
You can't keep
One time a
nobody.
year, everybody gets it the same day. At the end-
Keep way
towards the
more
end of the
than
year.
the general public can keep
Yes.
in business.
Because of the insurance.
Hey, I know you guys
Absolutely.
just said throw out the numbers. Chop it down, Rook.
You gotta make me the bad guy.
Yeah.
Well, anything you do above the current number is the good.
Absolutely.
Right.
If you're going below that number,
Yeah.
then-
We do have 450 employees in some kind
Chad
of.
just said he can absorb anything. That was your words.
I,
That was
well,
your words. I'm going by what you said.
I was thinking you were gonna do a couple $100. I'm gonna tell you now, you're scaring me with 2,000.
I figured I
They
wanted
get
to.
this every single year.
They get it every year once they hit that threshold.
I'm sorry,
Well,
that's a
just-
little steep for my
All
blood.
right, then throw out a
Yeah,
different
I
number.
just wanted to get it
You know,
started.
Obviously have consensus on this. What's your number?
You know,
Would they
5
like
to
us to
10
put
years.
together a census to demonstrate what that's, how that's gonna impact?
Well,
Chad will-
It don't matter. Chad said he can absorb it all.
why don't, here's a suggestion, rather than all of a sudden at the spur of the moment, everybody throw out numbers. Why don't we go through the budget process this coming year and let us make the recommendation this fall, and then you can amend it.
Probably better than doing this.
that was my initial,
Well, at least
initial
you got a
plan.
goal, Chad.
Okay, yeah, that was my initial plan was.
Give them the
included
goal
it.
number.
Yeah, Mo.
Yeah, because now you're scaring me a little.
I mean, you could look at it like that flat rate or like
But I wouldn't give-
$100 a year or something like that. as it just
My issue though is I wouldn't give everyone a bonus. That's, you
You don't
said
have a
it says
choice.
maximum. So,
That's based on prorated number of years, a month, year, part of the year. By its
well,
max.
my point is going back to that policy we're asking you guys to do.
That's a different, deal.
Performance, yeah.
I know,
That's
but
paid
That would be different.
performance pay.
that's different.
But I am calling the NCS HR department right now to inform them of Mr. Nelson's.
Hey,
hey,
to
trust
10
me,
years
my
and you
guys
don't
all got
even
bonuses
deserve
like
it.
that work for my company.
They don't every year.
What's
They
that?
don't every year.
Yeah, they do, just about.
So
Number of years.
Our work does
Just the ones
every
with the
5
vacation.
years.
For number of years, for years or performance.
It's based on, there's a ratio, years, performance, if you're a lead, there's all kinds of stuff.
It's not just a flat boom.
But the year, no, it's just not a flat boom. And that's why it says maximum bonus. That kind of is misleading.
Yeah, that is.
I'm thinking
Alright.
someone's got a.
We're not doing anything with this. If we're not changing the amount, let's move.
we will include it in a budget.
We'll go to the next one after that, where it's $2 an hour to be on call. Go up a bit, right there. Oh,
Which one is it?
see,
All right.
Really interesting to see what
amount
they bring
on
back.
pay may not exceed $2 an hour.
Yeah.
Right there on
You're
C.
on call?
They can't get more than $2 an hour if they're on call. That just seemed a little low too, if you're on call.
You can't go drinking if you're on call.
Well, no, but $2 an hour.
That is something, if we were gonna adjust, I would recommend it be done in the budget process, but that needs to be incorporated in the staffing plan
Okay.
and the overall cost of staffing.
Really, we can't do nothing with this. This is
Well,
whatever
you
they,
can.
this is what they want.
Yeah, but you can still, you
So
can
why
pick a
even,
number.
why
to
even
it.
show it to us if we can't do anything, Chad?
You can do it. I'm just
We can-
recommending if
we
you do
could
dollar
actually
value, do it
those
during budget.
numbers.
plan.
We can amend
Those
this.
numbers you just said, we could do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it before the election.
All right. Do you want to do anything on C?
Try to do something.
Chris, you want some change on C?
Oh, I can't get what I want, so I'm not gonna do nothing.
You can do it, just say what it is. You can change them bonuses to the numbers you put in there. All we gotta do is say yay and it's done.
Yeah, I had them in there.
You didn't get consensus. Okay. Try this one, try C.
Okay, so the amount, I don't have a comment about that.
All right, move on.
We can call Chad.
What's your next change?
All right, medical examinations, we just clarified that we pick the provider that they go to for their medical examination. And then this clarifies, we've had this clause about an emergency limited time position. Really, I think the best thing I could relate it to would be like a COVID event or maybe the sheriff or something like absolute emergency when they can't get a hold of me. It just says who's allowed to do that. It either has to be a division director or one of the identified standalone department heads. It has that.
Who is the general government?
That would be me. It used to be HR director, but that rolled up.
I just see it everywhere else. It's struck. All right, so do we have a motion to send this with the recommendation?
How about, here, 109, how about that temporary reimbursement program for tuition? That's not in there. That should have been under 1.09.
Well, so
Where does that fit?
we don't, that would be just like when we do health benefits or anything else. You guys set the budget line and then the administrator sets, selects the benefits or sets the policy for that. So that's the kind of stuff that's falling down to the administrator. You give them a budget line, he sets the policy and how that's administrated within the policy or within the budget line.
So that doesn't go in there in business expenses, medical examination, safety equipment, uniform allowance. Shouldn't the tuition reimbursement program be in that policy or not? How does that?
That's a benefit like health insurance and all, so it wouldn't track how we do
And
our.
it's just a pilot program this year, so I wouldn't, even if we were going to.
I know it's a
codify
pilot
it,
program, but do we move it on as policy? Do we keep it? To keep people?
We just started it, so let's see how it goes.
Everyone married.
Yeah, so that's my point, Kim. So my recommendation is fine, but can we put something in there that the committee or the board or, us want you to increase those bonuses and that hourly? Can there be something that is stated?
Well, I mean, I've already taken it as a directive to include it when I work with the administrator to develop a budget. That's why I wanted to let you guys know, we had actually had this discussion just last week about improvements to the plans in the next budget. And that's one that came up. So
I think these recommendations and the comments are good, but it gets a little hairy if we start in one committee, say, let's add this. We don't see the impact on the total budget. We
I get
haven't
it.
calculated. But I'm fully on board with what you guys are saying. So let us do this in the, in the picture of the whole budget. And then I think it'll make more sense.
It's just you're gonna have a new board here when you bring it back. So some of us might not be here to say, hey, do you remember what you said? Or that's all. My point is
That's why we have staff. Yeah.
What's that?
That's why staff is here. We don't get elected. We're
Me
here.
and Chad's gonna be here next year. You get a new board. You guys both, with the people I see running, you guys both might quit.
All right, hold on, we're gonna touch on.
I just had to get that
Guess
out
what?
there.
So we have a motion on the
Guess what?
floor.
I'm gonna keep
We have a motion on the floor. To recommend, not recommend this, changes in the personnel policy.
I move to recommend the changes.
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Oh, not
Okay,
opposed.
now, going for all those in favor first.
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carries. All right, now we're gonna review and update committee work plan. Anything we need to do on that?
No, we've stayed on top of this unless you guys have thought of something you want to incorporate into the year. I think general government has a pretty robust work plan, especially beginning in May. So,
You gotta add some of these deals from the policies aren't on here.
Hold on. We
Oh,
only
I'm
let
sorry.
you in for a couple of things.
I'm kidding.
You're on.
He's
Well,
trying to
skipping
take
everything.
over.
All that recommendations in the policies aren't in your work plan.
We're gonna be done.
Yeah, we
Okay.
clearly,
Everything we.
That's why we got
changes
2
said
years
are
behind
done.
on 800, in all the assets and stuff. There's nothing about that anywhere in here. So all that stuff got skipped out again.
I have no clue.
Same
Okay,
difference.
does anyone have a clue what he's talking about? Anyone?
I think what
What's in the work
Supervisor
plan?
O'Connell is referring to is the administration's responsibilities under the financial policy to report out to general government.
The investment's not on here. Where's the investment? Where they show us how much we
I
invested
think
and
you
what
should
we
get on,
made?
I think you should get on general government. next time.
Absolutely not. I got enough headaches. But I mean, it's not, the policy says all these things to review, but then it doesn't show up on the work plan.
All right,
Is all
put that
the
on
only
our
thing.
work plan that we review that. When are we supposed to review it?
Every
What
year.
month?
August is
All right,
one.
August.
There's a
Put that
bunch.
Oh my
on
God.
our work plan.
You know how bad August is?
It doesn't matter. Put
Okay.
it on.
All
Paul
right.
says it's
Whether we
easy.
do it, I mean.
Whether you do it or not.
Yeah.
Whether we do it or
That's how
not,
we
it'll
got
be on our
behind on
work plan.
everything.
I will incorporate into the work plan.
All right, anything else?
I'll go through it again
Yeah.
and mark it.
Anything else?
I'll fill out their
Make a
work
motion to
plan.
adjourn.
Give them something to do.
Oh, sorry.
We have subject matters for next
hours.
meeting. If there is nothing else.
Mo's got his hand up.
Yeah,
Work plan?
no, the subject matters for your next meeting, you need discussion and action on the land transfer to town of Lincoln for the property at County Road C and 125th Street. That came out of Public Safety and Highway. Moved to general government,
Gonna go to planning.
got missed on this agenda.
That's the one we talked about before,
It's the one we talked about a year ago.
and now we're okay to bring it back.
Jay wants to bring it back. Yeah.
Okay.
You get that? Anything else for our subject matters for next meeting?
Yeah, so I just want to clarify because at Health and Human Services on Tuesday, I participated online and I had a hard time hearing everything. Leah, I sent you that statute. So actually, the new board doesn't take office right after the election.
Right.
They take office a couple of
third
weeks
Tuesday.
later. So for the April meetings prior to that date, it'll still be the old people.
Right. So if there's a committee meeting, it'll be.
Well,
the
I'm an
current
old
committee.
person. Yeah.
Right.
So next month for Gen Gov, and I'll still be, and I know you're all looking forward to that.
So
My
what
last
is it you want on the, you got something on the agenda?
No, I just want to clarify.
You just can't
There
start
was-
talking
there was
about
some
Fran and April.
discussion
You have to
about-
wait till she's gone.
Oh, okay.
Really good. Not till May.
Hey, and one other thing I'd like to make a comment of, and I had someone else say it, it doesn't have much to do with our work plan, but I had people that have been to the county board meeting and they're coming again, they said this month, and they sit here, try to listen, and you keep, there's no speaker system in here anymore. If you go up there, you can hear the speaker, but it was hard for some of these individuals, they're older guys, and they're like,
Microphone
well, I don't know,
Where do these go?
these go to speakers up there.
recording and.
These go to the recording and all. We used COVID money to accommodate the recording and all. Spent about $20,000. We're gonna reuse these, but we're going to add enhancements. We've already talked about it, the video and the audio when they do the boardroom during the facility update. We are going to address the
I know
speaker.
that, but how do we do it until that's done?
I
Because
will,
clearly.
I wonder if we could get headsets like we have in the Justice Center that would tap into the recording like they're hearing upstairs. And it would just amplify it. They have that in the courtroom. We can look and see if that's.
I'll
a
work with
short
the
term.
IT director next week, see if we can come up with a solution.
Okay.
All right, subject matters for next meeting. Anything else?
I guess, can I just get clarification on the large assembly permit, or put that out there?
Yeah.
Essentially, that goes through our office. When things were codified, the fee for the large assembly permit it was changed. The large assembly permit ordinance has not been reviewed since 1977. In 2019, the cost of the permit went from $100 a day to $125 a day per budget. And then when things were codified, things went back to the $100. So we just needed to bump that up technically for that. But since it hadn't been reviewed since 1977, we wanted to propose that it be looked at because it's been quite some time. So that's really what that was about. I don't know if that's appropriate to bring back here or not, or what the
I would
process
think,
is. since I'm
I would think
unfamiliar
it
with
wouldn't be fair to bring it to us. You would work on your proposed changes and then however they come to us, but I don't think we want to work on that.
So we'll get a work group together to say,
Figure it out.
not, some are easy, like the $125 fee. But then there are others, and we'll come with a recommendation, send that out.
It's like,
Somerset.
No.
it's like the concert that Polk has.
Well, is there a number?
It's if it's so many people over a certain number of hours.
We only get one filing per year from
Porta
from
potties,
their
all
their large.
That's
anything
health
with
stuff, so
memorial.
that's why you
Yeah.
don't say it. It showed up.
Well, it takes a
Told you.
lot.
Oh, my dog doesn't have a large.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
village
Why do we have
All right. Any more for the agenda? Otherwise, we're done.
So, check.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?